Warning: this episode contains strong language. Hello and welcome to PauseCast episode 11. It's Tuesday, August 16th, 2016. I am Jessica Adowitz, and I use she/her pronouns.
And I'm Mark Henner, I use he/him.
I just want to get this out of the way real quick. Apologies for this being like a fake episode 11. The real episode 11 that we did, that was unrecoverably bad.
Well, no, the problem was it was too good to share with you.
Oh yeah, that's right. I've locked it away in the archives and you'll never see it. This is our fake episode 11.
Keep the story straight, Jessica. Jeez, we talked about this.
I'm sorry. I'll edit this out in post.
Okay.
So, video games happened a lot in the past couple of weeks. Last week we talked a lot about how excited I was for No Man's Sky.
Because it was literally within hours of it coming out, right?
Literally 3 hours away by the time we finished recording. That night I booted it up for 5 minutes. I saw the opening planet, and like the planet I started on, then I left. I had to go to bed, otherwise I was going to be up for several hours, and I work in the morning.
Just have to say, your self-control astounds me.
You know what I did after that,
until like 4 a.m. or some stupid thing.
You know what I did after that, too?
What was that?
When I got back later, I wanted to experience getting there on a new planet again, just like real quick.
Yeah.
So I just went on and I deleted my save for No Man's Sky.
I can totally get that. You want the coherent first hour or whatever instead of...
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. That makes sense.
So now, yeah, we're all set up. No Man's Sky, it's pretty good.
Yeah, and in the past week, my cousin has got it as well. He lives with my parents at the moment, so I see him a couple of times a week or so. So I've had the opportunity to play some and watch some of No Man's Sky as well, actually.
Excellent. Well, let's get into other stuff that we've been playing before we talk about No Man's Sky for an hour.
Okay, so what else have you been playing?
I have continued to play some Overwatch, some Persona 4. And I have continued... Yeah, it's basically Overwatch, Persona 4, like tiny bits of Call of Duty, tiny bits of Hitman, and No Man's Sky.
Fair enough. I haven't actually touched Monster Hunter in the last week. Part of the reason for that is that two of the people I normally play with are busy with No Man's Sky. So,
sorry about ruining everything.
So I think I'd finished the single player, like, Final Quest type thing just before our last show, and I haven't gone back to it since then. It's not that I'm done with the game, it's just that I've reached a good point for a bit of a break. And also it's been a bit enforced on the multiplayer basis. But I have been playing more Starbound. It's still fun. I still haven't finished the story of it, although my flatmate has now. He really surpassed me on the weekend. Before that, I was much further than him, and then he just sort of played for a solid chunk of it and blew right past me. So he's finished the story of it now and got further than me in the other systems of progression as well, except my spaceship is bigger, and honestly, that's all that matters.
That really is all that matters. Or having, like, more guns.
Or better guns, because you end up with too many. Too many is the wrong thing. You end up selling them because you end up with too many to use at once. But, yeah, you want the better guns.
You're not doing Borderlands right if you're not just trying to collect as many guns as you can. I will say that. That game is... It's all guns. That's it. There's guns and shields, and what do you want? You want guns.
It's interesting because these three games, Borderlands, well, it's the Borderlands franchise, and Starbound and No Man's Sky have got a big thing in common, right? And that's procedurally generating content. Guns in Borderlands and in Starbound and No Man's Sky, literally everything, pretty much.
I think we've talked a little bit about Starbound's procedural generation. If you're not familiar with that term, just real quick, it just means that it uses math to make worlds. That's it. Like
Think
it uses a set
Minecraft.
of like it's a set of rules and some math, and that makes the world.
And also for some other things like the guns and creatures and stuff, what it is often doing is it's taking a whole bunch of parts and perhaps a bunch of body types and stuff as well, and chucking them together to end up with something out the other end that's hopefully coherent. So it's not as complicated as creating a world and a whole lot of landscape, but it's still that sort of generation stuff is very similar. So how have you found the generated stuff in No Man's Sky?
I found some really cute stuff, some really annoying stuff.
Yeah?
Yeah, I've found a handful of pretty good worlds, I'd say. The current one that I'm on, I've spent like 6-7 hours just kind of wandering around because there is so much for me to see. There's so much that is interesting on this planet, and I'm like, I don't want to leave.
Well, that's good, right? Because, I mean, what's the point? What would be the point of making a whole galaxy full of planets? If you can't make one interesting planet, then the rest of them aren't going to be interesting, right? So that's good that you're able to spend that much time on a single planet and still be interested.
There's a lot of stuff that I've definitely stayed on planets for a few hours at a time. On several occasions. A lot of times it's kind of like, oh, I wonder what's over here. Oh, this is kind of interesting. I'm going to go check out something else, though. But I've finally found kind of a planet I just want to kind of chill on.
Nice.
It's nice.
So what's this planet like?
Well, number one is I don't have to worry about like my hazard protection going down. So there's no excessive radiation or cold or hot or just general nastiness in the air.
Have you found an actual habitable planet?
Yeah, arguably.
Wow.
It gets fucking cold when there's storms.
Okay.
But that's it. That's it. This planet's just like really chill. Also, there's no oceans. Probably bad.
For life, yeah, maybe.
Yeah, there's some pretty cool stuff on there though. Like it's a ridge-backed griffin. Is what I've called this thing. It looks like a fantasy griffin.
That name definitely evokes an image in my head.
Yeah, and like this is the thing I've named it though. Like it had a randomly generated scientific name, but I have given it the ridge-backed griffin, and it evokes that image.
I don't know if I'd agree entirely with calling them scientific names, perhaps only because I found them to be a bit more keyboard bashed names a bit of the animals, plants, and the planets, although sometimes some really great stuff comes out. When I was watching my cousin play on Sunday, actually no, sorry, my brother was playing at that point, he found a planet which we spent a bit of time on, which was called Foots Udaman. So we found a creature on it and called it Foots. Some message to that creature. That was fun. But just the randomly generated name.
Lovely.
Foots Udaman.
Udaman!
Yeah. FuttsUdaman. So we sort of did a bit of a double take saying it out loud and like, wait a minute, that's actually her.
I can just call it Foots.
That was interesting, just the terms of finding something with a name that unintentionally means something. We also had that when my cousin tried to name something first, he accidentally pressed enter, so it was just called Doctor, as in DR, and that was the name of this tree.
Dr. Wood.
Well, he ended up calling the other type of tree he found Nurse, just to keep with the theme.
Oh, that's good. Oh, that's very good.
This was the planet I told you about. Actually, I should tell this story. So, he went to this planet.
Saying I told you about this.
Yeah, I know. It doesn't really help anyone listening, does it?
Nothing.
So, one of the things that you can find in No Man's Sky are like floating chunks of resources that you can mine out. They're often quite round and sometimes a bit elongated and a few different colors. And we basically found a giant floating turd made of copper. And we thought, I wonder if you could land your ship on this. So he tried, and it turns out you can't because the ship went right through it. Problem was, when he tried to take off, the game decided his ship can actually hit it, and ended up stuck inside it, constantly taking damage until he died. And then he respawned on the ground with his ship on the floating turd, which he could not reach with his jetpack. So he had to then go, just walk away from it, try to find like an outpost or something where he could save. And we thought, okay, if you can save somewhere and set up like a restore point and then die, maybe your ship will come back to you. So the next half an hour or so was taken by trying really, really hard to die. Turns out dying by fall damage is really difficult because it'll take you down to like 1 hit point essentially, and then that's it. And then your shield will regenerate before your jetpack is high enough for you to take a jump big enough for you to take damage. So he couldn't manage to do that by falling. So we thought, okay, maybe you can find a creature that will hurt you. Turns out there are no creatures on this planet, so that didn't work. Couldn't find any water to hold his breath under, so we thought, okay, radiation. Just wait, and the radiation will get you. And then, just as it was getting low, he saw one of those things you can go and activate, and it tells you a word in an alien language. And as he was walking to it, he fell into a hole, into an underground cave, so the game stabilized his radiation levels, and he recovered. So that didn't work either. Eventually, he happened to find one of those platinum mining places where if you attack them, the flying robots would come and attack you. So he managed to die that way. Turns out it doesn't even bring your ship back. So all that time for just dying, turns out. The next 20 minutes were spent trying to find one of those settlements that actually has one of the things you can use to call your ship to you. It took ages. He eventually found something he could use to then, like, it was a beacon thing he could then use to find another settlement like 4 minutes away that had one of them. Finally found it, brought his ship to him. We decided, because this was the planet where he named the trees Doctor and Nurse, by the way, already. We decided that because he couldn't get off this planet, but it also was really bad at killing him, it was kind of the opposite of a death trap, so we called it Life Trap. But yeah,
also known as Purgatory.
I suppose so. I almost thought he'd never get off it. I thought he'd managed to break the game and would be stuck forever, but no, he did manage to get his ship back eventually.
I don't think I've heard of anybody having quite that bad of luck with the procedural generation.
I mean, it's really just because we tried to land on the copper turd and you can't, but you can hit it when taking off. That's right. When he did get his ship back, he couldn't take off because it was broken, so he had to go and get the bits to fix it.
I will say something about No Man's Sky on the PS4. Both myself and my partner have both experienced crashes that were lengthy, and yeah, it was just unpleasant.
How do you mean? Oh, right, sorry. I thought you meant like spaceship crashes.
No, we mean like actual like software crashes.
Right.
We have experienced one of those each. No hardware crashes yet, but I've heard some tales floating around.
Hopefully that's just going to be a teething issue with it being a new game.
Oh yeah, I totally think it would be.
I should say that what I've been talking about was on the PS4 as well.
Yeah, apparently the PC version was off to a rough start.
I heard that.
It's been mostly fixed at this point, but from what I heard, that initial launch was pretty rough.
They had some performance issues or something, didn't they?
Yeah, a lot of performance issues. Mm-hmm. And of course, the game is kind of coming out to mixed reception right now.
Yeah, I mean, that's always going to be the case with a game that has been hyped this much. It's never going to live up to everybody's expectations. You've got to expect that to a degree, right? Find out what it is and enjoy it for what it is, I guess. But that's going to be hard if you've spent months and months really looking forward to this game that it turns out isn't the game that's being released. So I can understand that.
Yep, you build up this like visual of this video game in your head, and you're just like, oh, this is going to be perfect. I'm never going to need to buy another video game again. Turns out that it's not everything you've wanted.
Speaking of visual...
Oh?
I really wish that at some point during the development of No Man's Sky, someone on the team had the thought to Google, what does space look like? Because it doesn't look like what space in No Man's Sky looks like. And that bugs me a bit. It looks like lots of really colourful clouds instead of space. And
it does look very pretty, though.
Okay, but it's not. It doesn't look like space. And I was hoping it would. And like the planets aren't actually like orbiting a star or anything. They're just like, here's a bunch of planets all together a bit.
Mm-hmm.
So both of those have bugged me a little bit, but that's mostly because I'm a space nerd.
I imagine the second bit of that would be more of a technical limitation than anything.
Well, they wouldn't need to orbit a star, but they're not positioned as though they could be. They're just kind of clustered together and whatnot.
Thrown together kind of hodgepodge.
Yeah. But I mean, it's not like it's awful or anything. It's just me being like, oh, could have been more realistic.
It's really not like it's awful.
No.
Like, it's just...
It's just it's just me having issue with the art direction stuff. That's all it is, which makes it absolutely a personal taste thing.
For me, this is a game I'm going to spend so much time in, because it is kind of a quiet... I kind of hesitate to say meditative, but it really is kind of a meditative experience. And it's very chill, very slow, very kind of staked on repetitive tasks.
One thing oh, sorry, go on, keep going.
Yeah, I would compare it to Animal Crossing most easily. Because that game revolves around doing a lot of small, repetitive kind of chores.
I haven't played Animal Crossing, but is that a similar kind of thing to Harvest Moon in that way?
No.
No?
Maybe not in terms of its scale.
Okay.
Harvest Moon has a lot more chores, really.
It's really a game about chores.
It is a game about chores. So is Stardew Valley by extension.
Yeah, well, it was inspired so heavily by... Yeah.
But, it feels like a series of chores to keep yourself going. Because things wind down at a slow enough pace that you don't have to constantly be thinking about them, but you do have to think about them on occasion.
At least the resources are really, really plentiful.
Yeah. And, like, well, the essential ones are, and that's what matters, really. And I think that's what makes the game work for me, because I loved Animal Crossing, and I love kind of quieter games that, even though they're staked on repetitive tasks, they still keep me engaged. And this game appeals to kind of a sense of exploration, and it appeals to this kind of quiet, meditative, repetitive kind of game craving, I would say I have. So I'm very much into this.
Nice.
I'm excited about putting a bunch more time into this.
One thing I haven't experienced either playing or watching it yet is just flying around the same planet in a ship. I've only played like the first 15 minutes, and I was stuck on a section of a world that was not generated very well. Like, there were squares with the edges were different colors and stuff where I landed, because just that's part of the danger of generating stuff. Sometimes things don't go quite to plan. But when I was watching, it was all when they went to a planet, they would go down and land and take off from the same spot to go to a different planet. So I haven't yet experienced flying around the same planet for quite a while. But one of the planets that my cousin went to, not Life Trap, a different one, had these really cool large rock formations that were sort of rope-like and separated from the grounds. There were arches under them, and I was really disappointed to find out you can't fly your spaceship under them, because if you try to fly into the ground, the game doesn't let you. It just makes you fly along above the ground instead.
I was bummed about that, honestly.
Yeah, same.
It was one thing that I was kind of excited about maybe doing, like just flying low over the surface of these planets.
Yeah, and like, I wish it was just like an autopilot thing you could turn on or something instead.
Yeah, I don't fully understand why that feature's there. I
think it's because they didn't develop a sort of collision physics engine for it.
I mean,
basically.
that's fair.
It is, but it's still just a bit disappointing that it's not in there, because that
Oh,
would have
yeah.
been fun when you're in a spaceship or a plane or whatever, and you see an archway in a video game. What do you want to do? You want to fly
Go
under
under
it,
it.
but then you find out you can't. It's kind of like, oh,
Oh, I have Just Cause 3 for that though. So
that's
like,
true.
I can go fly some crazy weird jets.
I should
all
get
over
Just
the
Cause 3
place.
at some point. I really enjoyed Just Cause 2 from just
It's
a
on-
go-to.
It's on
Mess
sale
around
on
game.
Humble.
Is it now?
Yeah.
Let me check how much that is.
I think it's still like expensive
Okay.
relatively. It may be worth picking up the version with the season pass. Just because there is some bonkers nuts shit in that.
Oh
pass.
yeah, you've got like a jetpack and stuff, eh?
Jetpack and the floating sky fortress.
Are you
and,
sure
like,
that's on sale? Because it says here that it's 85 US.
It might not be on sale. It was on sale when I checked it yesterday.
Okay.
Stink.
Oh well. I'll keep waiting. It's okay.
I'll keep my eye out for you. On the note of games that I got kind of turned on to this week. This 2 weeks really.
Mm-hmm.
So we've now had 2 weeks to talk about. Like we've had 2 weeks of games to like play and talk about. Something that's caught my eye recently is this game called Ghost of a Tale.
Ghost of a Tale. Is that TAIL or TALE?
TALE. I want to
Okay.
make sure that that's the right video game. Ghost of a Tale. Yep, that's it. That's the right one.
Oh yeah.
So, Ghost of a Tale is a video game about a mouse.
Yeah.
It's about a mouse. I've heard the Redwall comparison get dragged out, and
Oh, I read those books as a kid. They were great.
it's not wrong. It feels very. It feels like the aesthetic is kind of traditional medieval,
Oh, I'm
Mixed
looking
with-
at the screenshots on Steam now, and I can totally see that.
mixed with like a really, really small scale as well.
Looks really nice.
I watched some footage of Jim Sterling playing this week, and this game looks really beautiful. I'm impressed by it.
Yeah, the screenshots look really nice. I see it's an early
It's-
access game as well.
Yeah, it's early access. They've had it in development for 3 years. It's one person doing it.
Oh wow.
Yeah, one person's doing all like the coding and art. With there's one person doing music.
Right.
Yeah, just some phenomenal work being done here.
It's always really cool to
And-
hear about those really small projects, especially when they're this pretty. Wow.
Like you remember Dust and Elysian Tale, right?
Yeah, and the other one I'm thinking of is Stardew Valley being a one-person project.
So this has caught my eye, and I'm very much interested in trying this out and seeing how this goes.
So have you played it yet, or is it only
I
that
have
you're...
not played it yet, but I keep an ear out. You might hear me talk about this in the next couple of weeks.
Cool.
From the footage I watched, though, it just looks very, very deep and very, very beautiful.
What sort of gameplay is it?
It calls itself an action RPG. The section that's available right now is stealth based.
Oh, so there's only a small part of it that's available.
Yeah, it's the first chapter,
Ah, I see.
basically.
Right, so maybe one worth waiting for then, I guess.
Yeah, if you are interested in playing it for the narrative exclusively, then yeah.
Yeah.
I might be interested in playing it just to have my eye on this.
Yeah, fair enough.
But that first section that's available now is a stealth section. Apparently, it's a little bit more it's a little bit like Legend of Zelda kind of combat, lock on and slash at your enemies kind of
Okay.
deal. So, yeah,
Cool.
got my eye on that this week. Do you regularly have games like that, like little things that kind of just catch your eye and You just have to have a look at it.
Occasionally, not super often, but occasionally. I can't think of what the last game that did that was, though.
Mm.
I'm just having a look through my list in case I spot one.
Yeah. I've got a handful of smaller titles in this month's Humble Monthly. So.
Actually, I've discovered some really nice ones through the old Humble bundles. I haven't got a Humble bundle in quite a while, but I got the first few, and I'm finding some there. I think I've mentioned a couple before, like Hammer Fight, which I went back to a few weeks ago, which was still fun. That I would never have tried if I hadn't got it in a Humble bundle, but then really liked it. Actually, I gave you a copy of that, didn't I? Have you played that?
I haven't, because I am a fool.
It's all right. Plenty of games to play, and this one's not going away.
God, there's so many games to play. Oh my god.
Yeah, I still have my queue to get through, as well as my book I'm still reading, of course. And then the 5 after it in the series.
I have
4 after.
Way too many huge narrative games to get through. I still haven't finished The Witcher 3.
Well, neither have I. Not even close.
I finished Fallout 4, though. I'll take that to my credit.
Fair enough. Finishing games is still really rare for me.
It's a rare thing for me, but I'm trying.
That's good.
I'm trying. Persona 4, I'm 20 hours into that, and that's a 100-hour game.
Nice. I think I'm about 20 hours into Starband as well, actually, because I think when I started it, I was on 196 or something. And looking at Steam now, I'm 214. So I've got almost 20 hours in that since the 1.0 release. And that's around the point of finishing the narrative. Without rushing it.
So something I've been doing recently, just to kind of challenge myself. And I've found this really refreshing. I've been trying to get video game genres, like the mechanical ones, like your RPG, action... blah, 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 blah. Video game terms. You know, that sort of stuff. I've been trying to, get out from under that and just start looking at games by their narrative genres.
As in,
So I'm playing... I'll give you an example. I'm playing The Last of Us.
Yeah.
That would be considered a third-person shooter... action game kind of thing, if we wanted to look at this in video game terms.
Yep, definitely.
If we wanted to look at this in narrative terms, it is a post-apocalyptic horror drama.
Yeah.
That sounds a whole lot more entertaining, personally. And that also kind of describes, everything you might want to know about that game. And what kind of story you can expect going into it. I mean, the title of The Last of Us is also kind of a giveaway.
It is actually. The Last of Us is a really nice video game title.
It's really apt. And it works for
weeks and weeks ago we talked about really awful video game titles. The Last of Us is a really good one.
They're very bad. All of them. They're still bad.
No Man's Sky is a good one. I like it a lot.
Yeah. I like that, but most video game names are still just profoundly bad.
Yes, they have not yet improved since our criticism.
Yeah, let's talk about some real quick examples here. Murdered, Sole Suspect.
Oh, that one, yes.
I have that in my Steam library, and I cannot wait to try it, because it seems like it's right up my alley, but Jesus, that name is dumb.
Actually, your point about narrative genres, though, that makes me think. I haven't played them, but there's, which one is it? There's a zombie franchise, for lack of a better word, where there's been both a TV series and a video game series. I think by Telltale. The
Walking Dead is what you are looking for.
Yeah. So of course, when you put it in terms of post-apocalyptic horror, I'm thinking, okay, so it sounds like a TV series now, and then wait, no, there actually is that. Which is both. There's the TV series and the game, which is interesting.
Which is very much a post-apocalyptic horror drama.
Yeah. Have you played the game or the games or watched the TV show? I haven't.
I have all three. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's 2 seasons of the Walking Dead games. That second season was garbage. It was the hottest garbage. And I will never let Telltale live for that.
Okay.
But that first season was a really special kind of magic. That game is brilliantly written and brilliantly done. I would recommend it to basically anybody.
How does it compare to the TV show?
It's completely different characters and completely different storylines. Like,
right.
It just takes place in the same universe.
That's interesting.
There's been one Telltale series that's crossed over with the show, which highlighted one of the side characters, a black woman by the name of Michonne.
Okay.
And she's gotten her own Telltale series, which helps fill the gaps in the TV show, apparently.
So what's that one called? Is that also called The Walking Dead?
It's, The Walking Dead Michonne.
Oh, right. Well, that makes sense.
Yep.
Cool, because it's not super uncommon to see games that are made off movie or something like that, but for a TV show, it seems much more uncommon. So it's just you made me think of it, and it's interesting to see that there's.
You have to remember that's a comic series.
Is it?
The Walking Dead started as a comic series, my dude.
I did not know that.
Now you know.
Yeah.
Isn't that interesting? It's really interesting how many games have been made based on comic properties. Let's see, we got kind of the Batman series of games.
Of course. And they've been around for a long, long time. Batman video games, wow.
Mm-hmm. And there's now a Telltale series for that as well. We have Injustice, which kind of brings all of the superheroes together. There's some Spider-Man games. Like there's a new Spider-Man game coming out on the PS4.
Yeah, I've never played a Spider-Man game.
I haven't either. I just know that they exist.
Okay.
So I'm not speaking to
whether
the
it's
quality
good or
of
bad.
those. For TV shows as well, though, Transformers has some video games that are apparently quite good.
Although weren't those made as offshoots of the movies once they came out?
I don't know.
Okay.
I would guess probably.
I think they were, because I think one of my brothers got one, and it was right after the movie.
Yeah, there's a handful of those. I know that one done by Platinum Games, who made the Bayonetta series, was intended to be, it was intended to very much be about the original kind of 80s TV series.
Ah, okay.
So that's just kind of what I'm thinking.
So
yeah, just building off of narrative genres instead of just video game genres has allowed me to, I think, respect the stories a little bit more. It feels like I'm taking them more seriously, even though it's just a change in like how I'm thinking about them.
I think that makes sense, because categorizing that way puts the narrative first rather than the gameplay first.
And it's not something that a lot of people do, or I don't even think a lot of game devs would consider.
I like the idea of it. I'm going to try to make that shift as well and see how it changes to me.
It's really interesting, because with something like No Man's Sky, that is it's just pure science fiction.
There's not really much narrative, is there? It's basically go to the
there's
center
enough
of the
of
galaxy.
it, though.
Is there?
Oh yeah, there's a lot of little bits and pieces of narrative that I found in No Man's Sky personally.
Okay. Like I said, I haven't seen as much of it as you by a long shot.
Oh, certainly, yeah. Let's see, we've got Uncharted. That's very much just a action game.
It really is action movie type thing.
Yeah,
Although
it's
you've got the
action adventure.
adventure, yeah, it's kind of that globe-trotting kind of thing. It's the Indiana
Very Indiana
Jones,
Jones.
yeah, of
Yeah.
video games. Whereas
Um,
the actual Indiana Jones video games have very different gameplay. They're much older, but they're point and click.
yeah.
But it's a similar style of narrative.
Mm.
How would you
Uh,
classify games that aren't story-based then?
maybe by
Non-fiction?
their setting.
That's fair. So games like Kerbal Space Program, which doesn't really have a narrative, just as being a space game, I think that's a reasonable way of doing it, actually.
Probably just science fiction, maybe. We got these little orbs going up into space.
Maybe hard science fiction a little bit, since it tries to get the physics right. It's really
Mm.
unfair that since playing it and being a space nerd, I cannot help but compare every game with space to Kerbal Space Program and be disappointed when they don't live up to its, for lack of a better word, physics authenticity.
You really
It's not
are
fair.
you're just a gigantic nerd.
Oh,
That's our
absolutely.
situation
I
here.
absolutely am.
It's beautiful though. But yeah, even like I said, even just that has helped me kind of take games, I feel, a little bit more seriously. And I like this new shift of like, oh, what am I in the mood for? Am I in the mood for kind of some like am I in the mood for something a little bit more serious, like a drama? Or am I in the mood for something kind of just lighthearted, fun? I can just like kind of go blazing through. Am I in the mood for a little bit of both? Maybe some like military action, thinking like my Call of Duties. Um, like that helps me. It helps me figure out what I want to play a little bit more easy. Um, yeah, I'm real into that little shift.
Yeah, like I said, I'm going to try it as well. It sounds quite cool.
Yeah.
Nice way of shifting the priorities, I guess.
Um.
Are there any particular games that's like shifted it for you?
There's nothing really in particular. No.
Just as a general thing, eh?
Yeah, it's just been kind of a general thing and trying to figure out like, oh, like I like this way of thinking. So now, what do I classify all this as?
I guess it's so much easier to not have to worry about that for other media because they get consumed in the same way, right? If it's a book, doesn't matter the narrative genre, you're going to consume it the same way. If it's a movie, you're just going to watch it. Whereas games, the way you experience it changes a lot with the gameplay. So it's easy to put that first, but it does take that focus away a bit.
Yeah, like I mentioned earlier, those like kind of quiet meditative games, and you could set several genres within that. You could set like a post-apocalyptic drama in this very very quiet setting. It would feel thematically appropriate. You could still tell this really compelling story. It just doesn't have to be like loud.
I mean, there are a bunch of games that leave enough unexplained or to your imagination that you sort of can determine that as well. How much does No Man's Sky do that? Does it leave a lot of questions unanswered in terms of things like that?
For where I am now, I would say yeah. From what I hear, there's a bunch more lore that becomes easier to find as you go on.
Okay.
So there should be enough kind of story content there for me to put some of those puzzle pieces together. But where I am right now, I'm just not finding a lot. It's not a problem. It's not a knock against the game. Just how it is right now.
Fair enough. Because there are some games I've played, like Kingdom is one of them, which is a 2D side scroller where you start off, you are a king or a queen who is running away from something, and then the game is building up a bit of a stronghold until you eventually and practically inevitably have your crown stolen, or I don't think you can die. I think you can only have your crown stolen. But there's no words in this game from what I remember. So basically, whatever you're running from, apart from the enemies in the game, obviously, but what's happened before and stuff, you can set your own story in that, I guess. And the fact that it doesn't give you all the details lets you kind of just put that in, feed that in yourself a bit. I've mentioned this before a little bit with games like XCOM, where a lot of what becomes memorable is the stories you create in your own head around what's happening in the game, like about how this soldier has survived for that long. You start adding bits of personality to them in your head that isn't actually part of the game. It's always interesting when those details that don't get fleshed out in the game end up being able to add to it in that sort of way.
I really think it's interesting how much we can get out of kind of one game if we choose to, and how there's tons of content in most games, where, or let's say a lot of written content in a lot of games, and a lot of it just kind of gets skipped over sometimes. Bayonetta, which I love to bits, has gigantic books just loaded with lore, just filled to the brim. But you could totally miss all that. But there's a lot of, like, weird shit going on in there, and there's a lot of really cool shit going on in there. And I love that we can get as much or as little out of games as we want. This is just a thought that crossed my mind. It's a little bit off topic.
No, it's interesting. I've seen the same thing with sort of that extra lore you can look into in other games as well. The Elder Scrolls has got a lot of it, right? Those games where they've got, especially since it's built up through several games, they just keep the books in the last game. They've got a lot of books you can go and read, but you can also just not if you don't want to. So it's cool when games give you the option to go deeper like that.
They have fucking physical books of the books that you can find in the Elder Scrolls.
I'm not surprised to hear that, not one bit.
You could go buy physical books.
Has anyone actually put on a